feel like Gordon Bombay would have taken his career to even further heights.
Everything's flashy, everything's cocaine, everything's
Fun.
Open wide for some soccer.
I don't care what you think about what your personal thoughts are at home. I care that you hate the Cowboys.
Call this college ruled.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. Dom and Chris here. And before we get into today's episode, I just wanted to let you know that we are a couple of comics who enjoy talking sports. But also, if you are a fan of any of our episodes that we're putting out, give us a like, follow, and subscribe on like Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts and our YouTube page.
Yeah, trying to get that YouTube page up. Let me give a quick promo to you. Dom's about to release a CD with a couple other comics here in Tucson called Tucson Bullies Volume 2. Please check that out. I imagine it's going to come out right around when this episode comes out. So,
Most likely, yeah.
If you want to hear Dom do some stand-up, check that out. And like you said, subscribe, like, comment, all of that good stuff. Who are we talking about today?
Today we're back on the baseball diamond.
Ooh, it was somebody who had a small career, but man, is it memorable.
Oh, it is very memorable. He definitely made a name for himself in basically the 4 or 5 seasons he played professional baseball.
I don't think anybody played less professional sports and influenced pop culture more to make fun of him. Here we are talking about John Rocker, baby.
John Rocker, baby. Atlanta Braves closer, John Loy Rocker, born October 17th, 1974 in Statesboro, Georgia.
Yeah.
Was a very good athlete, like all of the athletes we seem to talk about. Grew up playing football, basketball, and baseball. His dad, Jake, was an executive at the Georgia Farm Bureau Insurance Company, and his mom, Judy, ran an ad agency out of her house. And John, while he was good at sports as a kid, baseball was always what he was drawn to.
Definitely. You see in his high school career, he was a pitcher even back then, and it was one of those guys who it was kind of obvious that he had a pathway to being a major league pitcher. You know, we're at least given a shot, a pathway to the minors. Let's say that, because that jump is insane. But
he was a fireballing lefty.
That's
he had
right.
A very good fastball and a very sweeping slider, and dominated his high school competition at Presbyterian Day School over there in Macon, Georgia. And as a senior in 1993, had 3 no-hitters and 2 16-strikeout games.
Yeah, so he was just one of these great high school pitchers that colleges and we see pro teams end up drafting him. So he's actually committed to the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah, and I mean, he definitely not an unintelligent person. Definitely, I think I had read he had a 3.5 grade average in high school. And unfortunately for John, despite the fact that he's a hard-throwing lefty starter, Major League Baseball teams aren't fans of guys who have college plans.
Well, it's interesting because he gets drafted, but we see him get drafted in one of these almost throwaway picks.
Yeah, in the 18th round. Yep. This isn't like a Stevie situation where he's playing a different position and someone catches their eye. It's just like, well, he could go there, but at this juncture, we've mentioned it, in passing on this podcast. This is the era where the Braves are just developing pitchers like nobody's business, basically.
Well, they really do have this. And like you were saying, they have this like 5-6 pitchers that come up who are just unbelievably elite that really come through their farm system.
Yeah, and all John ever wanted to do was be a baseball player. So he discusses it with his family. They have a 5-year plan. They have an education clause in the contract where if he doesn't end up making the majors or doing anything with his baseball career, he'll go back to school. And did a couple semesters there at Mercer in the state of Georgia. But he signs with the Braves, and it's off to the minors.
Yeah, and he just kind of goes through the traditional minor league route that a 19-year-old is going to go through.
Yeah, he goes to Danville in 1994. He's a starter at this point, by the way, I should mention. He has some very interesting antics while he's in the minor leagues. He would bite baseballs while he was on the mound, and sometimes he wouldn't put his glove up and let the catcher, when he threw back to him, hit him in the chest. Very Happy Gilmore style in the batting cage.
People were saying that he was it's like beyond unorthodox, where he was like, is he trying to like intimidate the other team, or is he just kind of out of it?
365 more days till hockey tryouts. Gotta toughen up.
And then some small child ran to the mound and got blasted by the poor catcher. That year, he had 12 starts, went 1-5 with a 3.53 ERA, and 63.2 innings pitched. In 95, he goes to Macon and Eugene, so he's split between the high and low A ball. Goes 5-9 in 28 starts, has some control issues and has a 4.77 ERA, but 135 strikeouts in 145.1 innings pitched.
Well, this is kind of what we see with guys who need to develop: is his control isn't there, his speed is there, his
antics are fun.
Yeah, it's interesting because the Braves are willing to develop these guys. Like if you look at them right now, some organizations might be like, nah, kid, you're just not doing it. But they're just like, nah, we can see that in a couple of years if you develop, because he's a huge specimen too. That's the other thing.
Yeah, he's 6'4", 210. I mean, he's an intimidating guy.
Yes.
And, the Braves are just loaded with riches as far as starting and relief pitching up and down in the big club and in their minor leagues, that they're like, yeah, he throws 100 miles an hour. Like, we can take a chance. We can let him slowly develop. Mind you, he's only 21 years old at this juncture. 1996, he's with the Durham Bulls. Yeah, more democratic that way, Chris.
Yeah, well, he was throwing too many strikeouts. So, I mean, there you go.
And with Macon as well, goes 9-6 with a 3.72 ERA in 28 starts. 150 strikeouts and 164.2 innings pitched. But in 1997, he doesn't do such a great job with Greenville and Double-A there. He goes 5-6 with a 4.86 ERA in 18 starts. And Atlanta decides to not keep him as a starter. They want to keep him around. They want to keep him in the organization, but they decide to make him a relief pitcher. And he talks about, at this stage of his life, how he was kind of racked with nerves and indecision and doubt. And they send him down to Puerto Rico to play some winter ball. And he's 22 years old. And the first batter he faces, and it's the first professional batter he faces, is Ivan Rodriguez. Future Hall of Famer catcher Pudge Rodriguez.
And I saw an interview with him. He was just like, yeah, he was just coming off of his batting title like a year or two before. And I believe they had him as middle reliever at this time.
Yes.
So they were just like, we just want to, see how you do. And to his credit, because I bet a lot of guys are unbelievably unsure if they're going to be able to. Yes, if they're going to be able to make it into this next, like, they see guys, these professional ball players, they're just like a step above, like in Bull Durham. It's just like, you're in the show, man, like that kind of shit. So like these guys who are in the show are really like a step above, and he goes out and he strikes out Pudge in 4 pitches. Yeah. And he was talking about, slider, he was just like, I felt so much confidence coming off of that he was just like, I can strike out anybody. And to his credit, he took that on.
Bro, to me, being a closer is something I associate with being like a comic almost. You have to be at least a little fucked in the head, and you have to have that adrenaline pumping at all times. And as John Rocker even put it, every time I went out there, I wanted to stick it up somebody's ass.
Well, you had to come into bad situations, good situations. You had to come into them all. You know what I mean? That's why I like the closer being like a comic, because it's true. You're really coming up and you're just like, all right,
here we go.
Yeah.
It's like hosting a show. It's like, what am I walking into? Let's see where this puppy goes.
Yep.
But really kind of turns it around. And kudos to John Rocker in this instance of taking what could have been like just a morally defeating, like, you're not a starter anymore. You won't start with the likes of Maddox and Glavine and Smoltzy. It's like, no, I'm going to go to the bullpen and fix shit.
Well, because the Braves had so many great pitchers, they were able to move him to relief, which, to be honest, looked like his best position.
And he had talked about going to the Arizona Fall League, also developing as a reliever, and one of his pitching coaches was like, just throw. Don't worry, throw the ball. Mm-hmm. So in 1990, that was 1997 in Greenville. In 1998, he makes it to AAA Richmond, goes 1-1 with a 1.42 ERA. Only 19 innings pitched, not because he was hurt or because he was bad, but because the Atlanta Braves need a new reliever on their staff.
So they call him up.
And in 1998, he pitches 47 games with a 2.13 ERA, goes 1-3 with 2 saves. He's basically emerged as their setup man for Kerry Lightenberg.
So he straight up is their relief or their middle reliever.
Yeah.
And is
He's
getting
a good
those
lefty out of the pen, too. Because guys like Lightenberg are a righty, Mark Wohlers, who had already gone, was a right-handed pitcher. He's your power guy and not like one of those loogie guys, like left-handed, one-out guys with the funky delivery. He's coming in to stick it up your ass.
Yeah, for 2 innings plus. That's something that is really which really thickens up this Braves pitching staff. But this is the thing is, we see that he, right after 98, 99.
Well, can I get into 98?
Oh, yeah. Please talk.
So the Braves, this is when they're winning all
yes.
those division championships. So they make the playoffs that year. They sweep the Cubs, and in the NLDS, he has 1 1/3 innings pitched with 1 hit and 2 strikeouts, 0.0 ERA, I should add. And then in the NLCS, which is my last erotic fantasy of baseball, they take on the Padres. And while the Padres take a 3-0 series lead, the Braves fight back in games 4 and 5 to push it to a game 6, and John Rocker's a huge reason why.
Yep.
Especially in the pivotal game 5 where Bochy had to waste Kevin Brown. Rocker comes in. He actually scores a run in the game in long relief, and he was really good in that series. They weren't beating Rocker, they were beating Lightenberg and the rest of Atlanta's starters.
Good point, yeah.
So that while they end up losing, he goes into 99 thinking, all right, we have our setup man, we have our middle reliever, but Lightenberg needs elbow surgery and is out for the season and basically ends his career. Rocker is the new closer for the Atlanta Braves in 99.
Well, this is what I was trying to jump too early to, but no, I'm glad you brought up because whenever the pods are in question, we got to bring them up. That's just what it is.
Thank you, Sterling Hitchcock. Thank you.
But this is what I found so interesting in 99 is he was so good as a setup relief man, but then he gets immediately moved to the closer, and you're like, oh, this might be even better for him because he has that mentality of like, I'm going to fuck up whoever is up next.
To quote the late Bob Ross, let's get crazy.
Oh, man.
Let's get crazy.
He was painting so many happy trees.
Sometimes
all
when you
over
hit a
that.
batter in the helmet, we just call those happy accidents. Anyway, 99, he's the new close. Have you ever seen a picture, not to go off on a tangent, have you ever seen a picture of Kerry Lightenberg? Mm-hmm. That dude with the freaking side, just like, Mattingly, shave those sideburns!
A classic-looking pitcher. I'll tell you what, he has the classic-looking...
long, curly hair, like, oh, God.
Like he's going to take acid and pitch a no-hitter kind of thing.
Kind of like Doc Ellis.
That's what I'm saying.
But in 99, the Braves again win the division. Rocker has a great, on par with the likes of Billy Wagner as far as being the NL's most dominant closer, and Trevor Hoffman and those guys goes 4 and 5, 2.49 ERA in 74 games. He pitched 74 games.
Yep. We'll talk later about there's some speculation about various things that happened to this, but pitched 74 as their closer in this dominant Braves team.
38 saves and 104 strikeouts and only 72 1/3 innings pitched. That's amazing. That's a great season for a first-year closer.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
They make the playoffs, obviously, again. In the NLDS, he pitches 2 games, gets 1 save, actually helps record the final out of that series sweep against the Astros. 5 strikeouts and 3.1 innings pitched. And then we get to the NLCS, Chris, against the New York Metropolitans.
And he, leading up to this season as the closer... And this is what you just don't see in sports anymore.
No, you don't.
In American sports was he was talking a lot of shit to the Mets in the regular season.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? He never really went off against the Phillies and their organization.
No.
Or their paid attendance at Veterans Stadium. It didn't really match up, and these are the same people that are descendants of or were booing Santa Claus.
Well, he just had a pure hatred for New York, both Yankees and the Mets, but really for the Mets, and he would have these quotes that
we'll get into the...
It makes me think of a less cheeky Billy Martin, where Billy Martin was just like, come on, we don't what are we talking about here? He was literally like, no. If you live in New York, you're the worst type of person ever. You
are a fucking troglodyte.
Yeah, it is so bad leading up to it, but yeah, jeez.
So they get to the NLCS against the Mets, and He pitches all 6 games of this series. And the thing about Rocker in this series and when he faced the Mets, he was really good. He was really good, which made Mets fans angrier. But what Mets fans kind of figured out about Rocker, unlike guys like Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz, they didn't let the New York fans get to them like Rocker did. And Rocker, while he was like, a wrestling villain, bring it on, you could tell that it cut him to the core.
And he would talk in interviews. He was just like, no, that never really got to me. You could see on the live footage, you were just like, oh yeah, he's getting mad right now. Like that's not, and
you don't like him when he's angry.
I was going to say, sometimes it might have been detrimental to the Mets because maybe he was pitching a little bit more, but it's hard to say because he really kind of loses his shit a lot of the time.
Yeah, and the thing is, so in this series, we talked about it in our Bobby Bow episode. The Braves go up 3-0, and Rocker has basically mowing him down. Pitches all 6 games. He's having debris thrown at him. Beer was dumped on his girlfriend. They were whipping D cells at him in the bullpen. He pitches 6 2/3 inning. Does not allow a run. The only run he allowed was in Game 5 on an Ozzie Guillen error, where the runners that he inherited ended up scoring to push it to a Game 6. But luckily for John, Bobby Bow and Ricky Henderson were playing poker in the clubhouse.
This is the other thing I found interesting is like the everything.
Game 4 of the Ozzie Guillen one. I'm sorry, but yeah.
But everything, like the way the fans were behaving, the way he was behaving, this is like the last gasp of it in baseball, I feel like, because he was pretty much...
It'll never happen again.
No, he was talking shit. You'll never see fans that unruly, not being kicked out, kind of shit like that, where like they were dumping beer on his girlfriend's head, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. But it's one of those things where it was a perfect just mix of this.
Yeah. And he fed on it too, but also like inside he probably really wanted to tell these people what for. But I mean, he had 2 saves and 9 strikeouts.
Yep.
So I mean, completely dominated them. They go to the World Series against the Yankees, so he gets to play in New York again. Except the Yankees sweep them.
Yep.
And he doesn't really have much of a role in the series because, well, only 3 innings pitched because you're not really using your closer when, a dynasty is kicking the crap out of you.
Yeah, they got dominated in that one.
So it's a good season for John. You're thinking the sky's the limit for this fireball and lefty. And then December happens. And a Sports Illustrated interview with John Rocker comes out, written by Jeff Pearlman.
So just to put a timeline on this, it's about 2 months after the World Series. Mm-hmm. Pearlman...
Famous baseball writer, by the way.
And
he's also a Mets fan, I would like to point out as well.
That's true, but he collects all of these quotes that he said. It's not like he didn't
never
say
denied
this.
it. Never denied
it. Not once was he Pete Rose in it.
Would you like me to read some of these quotes,
I got
Chris?
some too, because they're so unbelievable.
All right, I'll go into the one. Pearlman asked him if he would ever consider playing for a New York team.
Well, let me preface this. This is the one that is the most famous, and is the one that is the most ridiculous.
So Rocker is quoted as saying, "I would retire first. It's one of the most hectic, nerve-wracking cities. Nerve-wracking city. Imagine having to take the number 7 train to the ballpark. Mind you, I'm quoting, I'm not saying this. Looking like you're riding through Beirut, next to some kid with purple hair, next to some queer with AIDS, right next to some dude who just got out of jail for the 4th time, right next to some 20-year-old mom with 4 kids. It's depressing."
And this was just one of the quotes.
Oh, there's more.
And another one that I thought was kind of funny was maybe in the coming season, Mike Piazza can hit a line drive and knock it into one of your fans' heads. He was talking about the Mets.
Yeah.
And he has so many of these quotes. And like you said, he never backed off from them.
You want me to read the other one?
Yeah.
Okay. "The biggest thing I don't like about New York are the foreigners. I'm not a very big fan of foreigners. You can walk through an entire block in Times Square and not hear anybody speaking English. Asians and Koreans and Vietnamese and Indians and Russians and Spanish people and everything up there. How the hell did they get into the country?
So just to...
Can I say one thing about this quote? When you say Asians, that kind of just covers Koreans and Vietnamese and Indian. I mean...
Well... This is the thing.
Not a good look, John.
This is the thing that I wanted to bring up. He was an intelligent man where he had a good GPA, but man, was he fucking stupid.
But you know what? If he had answered, if he had answered it like this, look, and I'm sure this is what he felt, but he had so much of that rage in him. If he had said something like, "I'm from rural Georgia. This city is like a weird Thunderdome. I want no part of it. And for the Mets fans whipping D-cell batteries at me and dumping beer on my girlfriend, you're pieces of human garbage." If he had said that, nobody would have cared. And what was it? Andy Richter had that joke on Conan where he called them Neanderthals. He's like, well, that might be true.
Well, it was one of those things where he literally wasn't talking about Mets fans. He was talking about New Yorkers.
Yeah.
And like, he's not even talking about baseball at this point.
No,
he's talking about
he's
like
going
literal,
down a very...
he's just a good old boy, and he's just a man of his time in the 90s in Georgia. It was different. You don't understand.
Will Ferrell, I will make you drink my pee!
That's the kind of shit, and this is why, and we're about to get into it because his career was so short, but the fake quotes are almost not even as good as the fucking real quotes. Well, it's insane.
They had asked Rocker about that and something we'll talk about later, and he was like, you know what? Because it's comedy, it's hilarious. Like, he never took any offense to it. He was just like, this is a parody.
Well, this is something that I saw fellow baseball players that he played with that were black, and they were asked, they were like, well, do you think he's racist? And he's like, well, I don't think he's racist. I think he just kind of said some racist shit or some wild shit, but like, I know the man. But it's one of those things where he even had a quote where he was just like, I can't be racist. My best friend was born in, I even forget what stupid ass reason that he had, but he's one of those kind of thought processes where he was just like, I can't be. I played next to a black guy. I don't remember his name, but I mean, I'm just saying.
Tony Brune's quote about white liberals. Oh, I count my black friends.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, he was a white conservative.
Well, obviously, but
that's the literally it's both sides that have that mentality where they're just like, no, I'm not, and you're just like, yeah. Everything you just said was xenophobic and racist. So
it's hard to walk those back. So everyone's caught. Could you imagine if he said this now? My God.
This is what I mean. This is the last gasp. Same with the fans. The fans acted unbelievably horrible, but it's this last gasp of just like hatred between.
It's like vitriol. Like
it's almost a lack of professionalism that we're missing.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
The cheeky, clownish professionalism.
Yeah.
But so shit hits the fan. Hank Aaron was quoted as saying that this was somebody who just comes from a mentally disturbed place. Bud Selig and MLB are basically forced to suspend him for 73 days. He issues an apology, but he never walks back anything that he said. He's like, I'm sorry I said this.
This is the first and I believe only time that baseball's ever suspended somebody for the only thing was verbal comments.
Yeah. I mean, and it's verbal comments, like, because they'll get on people's asses now, like, crapping on, like, umpires and things like that. But yeah, this is the first and only time. 2000 season, though, 59 games, 24 saves, a 2.89 ERA with 77 strikeouts. But unfortunately for Rocker and the Braves, they lose in the NLDS, and he only pitches 2/3 of an inning. And this is when we start to see he has a pinched nerve in his neck, and his rotator cuff, 2 of the 5 muscles are like 85% torn. Like his arm starts giving out.
There might be a reason for that.
Well, and do you want to go into that reason? Because he has admitted it.
He 100% admitted it. I want to say this. I distinctly remember him leaving baseball, and I remember thinking it was because teams didn't want to pick him up because he had a bunch of extra baggage.
No.
Looking back, it was straight up because his shoulder like died. He just goes, yeah. I was pitching 100, 101. In an off season, it literally went to like 80, 82. And you're just like, yeah, he couldn't be a professional pitcher anymore.
Because teams kept signing him after this. Keeps kept trading for him. It's not like, here's the thing. And he had talked about how Bud Selig sent him to sensitivity training. He said he went for 15 minutes each time and didn't even give a shit. MLB teams and professional sports owners, not to go on a rant, they're terrible people. They don't care. They care about the bottom line and whether you can play or not. Deshaun Watson, perfect example right now. Granted, Rocker did none of that or is accused of none of that, but all I'm saying is, if you can play, they'll find a spot for you.
Yeah, it's sports washing.
The reason his career wasn't extended was because of his arm giving out.
Yep.
Not because of what he said or anything that he did.
If he was one of the best relief pitchers, this is the thing that I kind of wish is we would have had fucking 50 more quotes.
Oh, I wanted 10 more years of John Rocker, for the love of God.
Him getting traded to the Yankees.
Oh,
obviously not the Mets, but I'm just saying to the Yankees.
You mean Jew York?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so in 2001, he's actually tops in the NL in saves about midway through the season in 30 games. He's got a little over a 3 ERA, 19 saves, 36 strikeouts, and 32 innings pitched. But on June 22nd, the Cleveland Indians are in a pennant race, and they need a reliever, and they trade Steve Carsey and Steve Reed for Rocker and minor leaguer Troy Cameron, and he becomes Cleveland's setup guy. Only going into the American League of the steroid era, his performance starts to tumble, and he finishes his stint in Cleveland with a 3-7 record with a 5.45 ERA.
I was going to say, this is where we really see him get lit up.
And he only pitches an inning in their ALDS loss to the Mariners. And after that, Cleveland's had enough because he's not throwing 100 miles an hour anymore. On December 18th, 2001, he's traded to the Texas Rangers for Dave Elder, but is only 2-3 with a 6.66 ERA,
which is pretty lovely.
Yeah, which is pretty nice, and was released in the offseason.
Yes.
So, unfortunately for John, in 2003, on April 10th, he's signed by the Tampa Bay Rays, pitches only one inning, has a 9 ERA, and is released June 27th, 2003, and never plays in Major League Baseball again. I think part of the reason why, as we discussed earlier, is the injuries, but do you think there might have been something else causing those injuries?
Well, he did go down into Mexico and play. Oh, no, wait, that was a different man.
Yep.
Excuse me. So this is what we were alluding to earlier, in which he came out and said that was completely true in the 98, 99, 2000 was he was on steroids, and that's why his shoulder possibly went out, was he pitched too many innings, too much working
strain.
Out, too much strain.
But what he talked about, and it's something, go listen to our Drugs and Baseball series that's actually quite popular, and I think you'll enjoy it. I know I'd brought this up before, but what Rocker had basically said was, yeah, I took steroids. They weren't testing for it. The whole weight of the organization was on me. Like, I could get more money. I needed to exceed expectations, so why not?
And this was the other thing, was it was so prevalent that he was just kind of like, yeah, everybody was. What I don't feel like people think about is steroids in pitching, which it really was.
And Kurt Schilling used to rail against that too, how much he was like, you think the batters are the only ones doing this?
Yeah.
Like, think again.
So he retires.
He retires, but he's still quotable.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's still in the limelight. So
in 2002, he hurled some anti-homosexual slurs at a Dallas restaurant, which is always something anyone does. In 2006, after Ozzie Guillen referred to sports writer Jay Mariotti as a fag. By the way, Jay Mariotti is an enormous douchebag. Fag, probably not the correct term to use, but he's a giant douche. But John Rocker stuck up for his old teammate Ozzie by saying, basically, Randy Marsh, this is America. You know, like, I'm sorry, I thought this was America. But he also found some television fame after this as well.
Yeah, he was on Survivor for I don't know. I don't know how Survivor works. A couple of weeks or some shit like that.
Yeah, he was a third person voted out, mostly after most of the cast found out who the hell he was.
Oh yeah.
He went there with his lady friend at the time. He also, I did want to bring one thing up about him because it is something that is a positive that I had learned about John Rocker. He is part of an organization, helped start an organization called Save Homeless Veterans.
Oh yes.
So this is a charity that he goes, around and gives money to and creates awareness for, where basically veterans who get screwed over by the VA and everything and come back home and have nowhere to live, no way to ingratiate themselves into society. Like, I've seen interviews with these people talking about what an important part of their lives he's been for them, and saw a great interview on Vice about the organization. And he basically says, look, I've done some messed up things in my entire life, but this name recognition honestly helps me to where people can, they can see all of the other stuff, but they'll always see Save Homeless Veterans.
Yeah.
So not all bad.
Well, it kind of, take back away from that is if the veterans were black and or gay, he does not help them.
Oh,
that's the only thing that sucks. Come on.
No, there were plenty of them in that
Just
interview.
kidding. I definitely saw veterans that said, like, literally he saved their life and that kind of shit. But let's get into his other impact, because he definitely has some good charitable work. I'll never talk shit on that. That is something that is definitely needed more, is veteran outreach. But man, let's get into
who he inspired.
Because on SNL, Will Ferrell played him for a couple of episodes, for a couple of skits.
Because he's an easy target, and Will Ferrell has been known to get kind of crazy and over the top in bits, and being John Rocker was one of them where it was freaking hilarious.
And this spawned what would be one of the funnier shows, I would say, ever.
Will Ferrell was executive producer of a show called Eastbound and Down.
That's right.
Where the pitcher in the show, he's a washed-out former major league reliever who started his career in Atlanta, named Kenny Powers, played by Danny McBride. Someone who was born 2 years after John Rocker in the same Statesboro, Georgia hospital. And
that's destiny.
That is destiny, but it's also, holy crap, there are a lot of parallels.
Yep.
Because Kenny Powers is a hard-partying, does not care what people think of him, relief pitcher.
Well, that was the reference that they said, that you said earlier with Jew York. That was one of the things that he said. And like, in retrospect, that's not even as bad as the stuff that Rocker was saying. This is what I mean, where it was like Billy Martin was funny. This was really just like hateful.
This was jarring.
And and that's what the Kenny Powers thing, it was like, it was absolutely hilarious. But the quote that I love was about Eastbound and Down is Kenny Powers looks like Mike Piazza, but he's hit with a frying pan with John Rocker's personality.
That is amazing.
And it's just like, yes, that's a perfect description of this gentleman.
Can I wear the Scream mask?
Yeah.
You know, the mask from Scream?
Can I wear the Scream mask?
I'm going to Shaboom's! But no, John Rocker, a very entertaining, very controversial, very successful for that short window relief pitcher in Major League Baseball, and not gonna lie, very interesting episode for us to do.
Probably won't see a man like him in professional sports again.
Which is good, but also very bad.
Yep, it's both.
Yeah, it's both. You get a little column A and a little column B there.
Thank you all.
Thanks.